A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
You got f***ing grow, mother. Are you kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Gallant Says podcast, available live at twitch.tv/Gallant Says or youtube.com/Paul Gallant, but also available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. It is Tuesday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Don't you feel the love in the air? Can you feel the love tonight? I don't. Yet again, 33 years old, single on Valentine's Day. And I mean, I can sell it to myself as being, a day that I get to spend some time with myself. Wink, wink. I could also spin it as not having to spend money on an elaborate date, some stupid fucking present. I mean, I don't even know what the history of St. Valentine's Day is all about. How the fuck did St. Valentine's Day start? Was there like a massacre or something like that? That's generally how these things work. Like a saint gets killed and then you have a day in his feast. Oh, guess what? Per Wikipedia, Valentine's Day, also called St. Valentine's Day, is celebrated annually on February 14th, originating as a Christian feast day honoring a martyr named Valentine. Of course. St. Valentine of Rome was imprisoned for ministering to Christians persecuted under the Roman Empire in the 3rd century. Some people say that he restored sight to the blind daughter of his jailer. He probably got crucified and fucked up because that's generally what the Romans did. Anyway, I'm going to ruin Valentine's Day for you further. Now that you know why the holiday exists, just know that you are not doing as well as comedian Eric Andre. Look at this picture right here. Seems innocuous, right? Oh, wait, there's a man naked on a couch. There is a heart with an arrow through it on his crotch. We could pull a Super Troopers right here. Enhance. Up, that is a somewhat naked Emily Ratajkowski in the background. Yep, Eric Andre, he won Valentine's Day, and you probably lost. So there's that. But look, guys, love is still in the air, and maybe you're like this couple who proposed at a Mavericks game a couple of years ago and actually got married at a Mavericks game, which is probably proof that you have no friends, maybe no family. Maybe they died tragically. I don't know. Here is how that went down, though.
Reed and Ellen will now exchange rings as a symbol of love and commitment to each other. It is the seal of the vows you have just taken to love each other without end.
All right, while these vows are going on, gotta say that the hair of this guy on the right, impeccable.
As a sign of my love,
True love.
As a sign of my love,
that I have chosen you
that I have chosen you
above all else,
This is true love,
above
guys.
all else.
with this ring,
With this ring,
Okay, I've had
I
enough.
thee
Enough
wed.
true love. Fuck,
I thee
Fuck
wed.
that. Let me stop it right there. There you go, everybody. Look, there is some news in the NFL today, and it somewhat relates to the Houston Texans. Let's start off with, first off, news out of Arizona. The Arizona Cardinals have officially hired Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon as their new head coach. It's the last head coaching gig of this coaching cycle. Defensive-minded guy working with Kyler Murray after a Super Bowl where the big story yesterday was about how Eric Bieniemy saw some play in the Eagles-Jaguars game that showed that the Eagles overreact to motion and used it twice for touchdown passes in the Super Bowl. Gannon never adjusted the first time it was thrown against him. And there you go. The Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Jonathan Gannon was a guy that the Houston Texans almost hired. Meanwhile, in Indianapolis, Shane Steichen was officially introduced as the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. At this press conference, as we got further and further into it, Jim Irsay, owner of the Indianapolis Colts, did what he did best. Started blabbing. And he had this to say about what the Colts could be doing come draft day with the 4th overall pick. Here is Jim Irsay along with Colts general manager Chris Ballard.
And we're not hiding, no one can shy away from the fact what quarterback means in this league and how we have to look going forward where Shane and Chris really, dig into this draft and really see where you're at. Do you stay put? Do you trade up? There's many things you can do. They took Jalen in the 2nd round. So,
trade back.
Yeah, trade back. So, he likes picks.
That'll be a Twitter freaking quote.
He likes picks.
Let's pause for a moment. Most general managers, I think, want more picks. It's not just because of the fact that having more picks gives you more swings. I think having a pick later on in the draft takes a little bit of pressure off of you as a general manager. You got that number 1 overall pick. You really do have to nail it. You trade up to that number 1 overall pick, which has been rumored is something that Indianapolis might do so they can leapfrog the Houston Texans and get whatever quarterback they want on the board, seeing as Chicago doesn't seem to want one. That has been rumored as a possibility. Jim Irsay loves talking, loves perhaps destroying Indianapolis's leverage. And while he is a seemingly affable fellow, the guy's brain is perhaps a little bit off, to put it politely. I think he's going to put a lot of pressure on Chris Ballard to trade up into that number 1 overall spot, especially based off of the rest of this quote by Irsay.
Although the Alabama guy doesn't look bad, I tell you. But it'll be exciting, and I think that shows that we have talent here.
Blah, 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 blah. The Alabama guy seems pretty exciting. So is that a sign that the Indianapolis Colts are going to trade up into that number 1 overall spot? I've taken a look on Twitter, and that's what a lot of people who cover the Houston Texans, like myself, are talking about right now. What Jim Irsay had to say. Find a young quarterback. The Alabama guy doesn't look bad. I'll tell you. Indianapolis has that 4th overall pick. To trade up would probably be somewhat expensive, even if we're talking about just a couple of picks. Just ask the Chicago Bears, who traded up with the San Francisco 49ers a couple of years ago so that they could draft Mitchell Trubisky. Jesus. That actually happened. Mitchell Trubisky was the first quarterback taken in a draft class that also featured Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, 2017. Even with all the shit with Watson, I think you'd rather have Deshaun Watson and just look the other way than you'd have Mitchell Trubisky. I'm going to say this a lot over the next couple of months, both on my radio show and on this show right here, which again is on twitch.tv/Gallant Says, youtube.com/Paul Gallant, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. No one actually knows which of the quarterback at the top of this year's draft will be good. And no one knows which quarterbacks are going to suck. There's a gut feeling that we all have. That's all it fucking is. And you're hearing a ton of people right now, some qualified, some completely unqualified, weighing in on quarterbacks based off of that gut feeling and acting as if they know how to evaluate a quarterback, first of all. Very few people do, because it's such a fucking hard science, not just an inexact science, a hard one. Those people are so confident. And their confidence annoys me because no one really knows. Let's just be perfectly honest. No one really knows. Lots of people are going to say they want Bryce Young. Some are going to say they want Ohio State's C.J. Stroud. Others are going to say they want Kentucky's Will Levis. They'd even talk about what they'd be willing to trade to maybe move up and make a pick of one of those quarterbacks. And the majority of those people, so confident right now, are going to be wrong and will go back to doing the exact fucking same thing they've done over the last couple of weeks and in the coming weeks next year. It happens over and over again. As I've gotten older and seen this hustle in action, I have become progressively more and more annoyed by the entire buildup to an NFL draft. Here's all I want. I want the Houston Texans to take a guy that they really love on this Valentine's Day. I want true love. That's the only reason that they should take a quarterback. They got to love the guy if they're taking him with that second overall pick. Or if they're doing something to trade into that number 1 overall spot. And I wouldn't mind if they do it. If they really love the guy, they really love the guy. And then it's a matter of coaching that guy up. We will see what Ben Slowick, as offensive coordinator, can do. We will see what quarterback coach Gerard Johnson can do. We don't really know what those guys are going to do either. But we're so confident about what a quarterback is. If you love no one, on the other hand, of these 3 guys, be single like me. Be picky. Be choosy. Keep waiting. Keep kicking the can down the road. Keep disappointing your parents or your fan base. Just keep doing it. There's no reason to throw yourself into something that you're not all aboard. That's all I want. I don't want them to feel pressured into taking one of these 3 guys. And if they don't like the 3 guys, it's not that I'm going to trust them on their opinion, but I'm not going to say, yeah, they fucked up here. Nope. And maybe that makes me bad at sports talk radio, but I just don't understand why we all feel the need to be so fucking confident about some of the players available. If I have to pick one, I would pick Bryce Young, but that's only if there's a gun to my head. And the guy's undersized. He's not much bigger than me. I'm 5'11 and a half, 175 pounds. Not that much bigger than me. I will watch some highlights of the 3, so I'm not totally talking out of my ass about them leading up to the draft, and maybe my opinion will change, but when it comes to the inexact science of drafting a quarterback, I refuse to be someone who pretends he has the right answer, which lots of people that are professional talking heads like myself do. A lot of people who are doing it as a hobby do. Nothing against the people doing it as a hobby. I respect the hell out of you having the hustle to do these things, but no one knows, and everyone acts very confident. Michael Moore keeps on saying that Bryce Young reminds him of Jamarcus Russell coming out of LSU. Jamarcus Russell was a huge person and remarkably lazy. I don't understand how there could be any similarities between the 2. Michael Moore said, what did Jim Irsay say as well? During Shane Steichen's press conference, he mentioned finding a young quarterback and then added, the Alabama guy doesn't look bad, I'll tell you. If they want to get Bryce Young, the Texans might have to trade up because the Colts have the number 4 overall pick. Some people are giving me compliments to my Houston Roughnecks hat. Yeah, I got a Houston Roughnecks shirt too. This is from BreakingT.com. Undefeated, 5-0, 2020. They were, and the season stopped. I was in Houston right before shit hit the fan with the pandemic. I was there for Sean Pendergast's wedding of Sports Radio 610. Went to the rodeo cook-off early in the day, went home, got in a tux, went to the wedding itself, thought nothing of it, boom. But yes, a Roughnecks hat I am wearing as well, because your boy didn't shower today. Didn't feel like it. While we're on people that are... I think throwing opinions out there that are based in fear. There are some people who I think are scared that the Colts are going to trade up into that number 1 overall spot and get the guy that the Texans want. As if Jim Irsay and the Colts have never fucked up once in their history. If you're thinking about the Colts owning the Texans, you're thinking about a bygone era. And I know Indianapolis has had success against the Texans for the majority of their history, in particular T.Y. Hilton. But, oh no, the Colts traded up to the number 1 overall spot with a general manager and Chris Ballard, who probably still shouldn't have a job anymore. Oh no, what are they going to do? There's too much fear in the eyes of some of you, including my buddy Jeremy Branham, who is on the show right after me on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. What the fuck is this tweet? Shane Steichen and Will Levis paired with Jonathan Taylor terrifies me. Jesus, everything must terrify you then. Will Levis. Maybe he likes Will Levis. But does he know Will Levis is going to be good? Does anyone know Will Levis is going to be good? Does anyone know Will Levis is going to be bad? I would like to say Will Levis is going to be bad based off of what I watched at Kentucky, but he probably has a chance to work out in the NFL if we're going to base career trajectories off of Josh Allen. He's got a lot of the same traits. Some comments here. Victor Ayala, youtube.com/Paul Gallant says, I think the Texans will trade down if Bryce is picked first. Easier said than done, though, because remember, you're talking about a 15-minute period. I think it's 10 minutes now. Is it 12 minutes? 10 to 15-minute period to call a bunch of organizations across the NFL and get a package that moves down in the draft to a point where you're still able to pick whoever you have at the top of your board, because that is a factor. Unless there is a obvious story or report about what the Bears are doing with that number 1 overall pick and what the Colts are doing with that number 1 overall pick, the Texans aren't going to have the luxury of being able to trade down so quickly after it happens. I'm sure if they wanted to make it happen, it's possible, but you got to think about draft day trades in the context of picking up a phone, putting together a deal, and negotiating something in 10 to 15 minutes. It's possible, but it's going to be very difficult. Michael Moore, go get him. I'm just saying all the hype when he came out of LSU reminds me of the same thing. Plus the issues he had in college. I don't understand any of the issues that Bryce Young might have had in college compared to Jamarcus Russell. And maybe I'm forgetting Jamarcus Russell, but it's what you've been consistent with that take, Michael Moore, on youtube.com/Paul Gallant, but it's one of the weirder ones I've ever heard. Really. I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, a lot of people might be pissed off if the Houston Texans do not take Bryce Young with that first overall pick, if they don't trade up into that spot, or if the Colts trade into that spot and get Bryce Young. But a lot of people are getting pissed off by the world of fashion these days. We need to talk about something. And look, this show doesn't just talk about the Houston Texans. We talk about pop culture from time to time. Can we please talk about pop singer Sam Smith? This was Sam Smith in like 2015. Not trying too hard. Wearing a red jacket, wearing a white shirt. And then let's take a look at Sam Smith over the last couple of weeks. This was Sam Smith in a music video at some point after this picture where he looks like a normal person. I mean, that's something, right? That is something. I'm sure a lot of people have a bunch of different opinions on it. It is a look, and it is a look that is 100% designed to get attention and probably piss some people off along the way, because that is how you make it in the world today, pissing people off in creative ways. And I'm of the belief that high fashion is a way to do it. And I am actually getting a kick of what Sam Smith has been doing to basically troll the fuck out of everybody, because there has been strong reaction one way and another. I'm not saying I like it. I think he looks like shit. Like, okay, you got pasties over your nips here. What's going on? I guess he had, some self-confidence issues, body dysmorphia back in the day. Whatever. That's not a good look, right? Unless you're trying to troll people and piss them off. Here's another Sam Smith picture. This looks like Sam Smith cosplaying as Elton John, cosplaying Bruce Springsteen. Another that we saw this week. This was Sam Smith at the Brit Awards of 2023. What the fuck is going on here? Make sure you're watching this show, youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant says. I don't even know what to say. I think this is latex, which means that it's probably really tight. But this man cannot fit indoors looking like this. You would not be able to draft this man as a quarterback because he's not going to be able to move. I will say I'm impressed that he could move with these things on his legs and the high platform boots that he's wearing. But again, the guy's trolling us, trying to get your attention. And the usual suspects are looking at this and saying, this is why America is failing. This is why the world is failing. And others are saying this, live your best life. Yes, do it. Yes, queen, do it. And I find myself in the middle saying, we don't need to make this the center story of where we're at in the world today. I would say shooting down UFOs, or I don't know what's going on in Ohio and East Palestine, or the other train wreck that we had in Houston today. Maybe those are things we should be focused on. But instead, no. Let's focus on fucking fashion. Now here's some more pictures of Sam Smith. Here he is looking like Satan and/or just a man who's enthusiast of Fred. Some more pictures of Sam Smith. Oh, that's Russell Westbrook. My bad. Don't let this Russell Westbrook intimidate you, says this headline from highsnobiety.com. The Russell Westbrook interview. He says wearing all red. He got a star in his hair. That's kind of cool. Huh? This is a sports thing too. Remember when NBA players all of a sudden decided, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do weird stuff. Is it an elaborate troll job to get people like myself to comment on it? Is that what they were trying to do there? Or is it possible that actually is what fashion's supposed to look like? Here's some more Russell Westbrook. It is fascinating to see what the NBA players have been doing. And Russell Westbrook really is somebody who did it the most. I mean, just look at this entire collection from GettyImages.com of Russell Westbrook fashion. I mean, he's looking like a ninja in some of these. A lot of cleavage being shown. I'll give him this. He's got some titties as a man, but like muscular ones. Let's keep going. Remember this? Where Russell Westbrook had like a t-shirt on, but it was like raggedy and there was like a hole where his cleavage was. Like man underboob cleavage. Who would have thought that someone could try it out? And he's not the only person that's, avant-garde with fashion. James Harden was doing some of the same stuff. Here's James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Actually looking pretty fly here. But we also had James Harden trying this once before. I don't know what's going on. Is he wearing a shirt underneath this? He looks like a piñata / lollipop. Oh, and he's putting a hat on, and that hat looks like the tip of a penis. Okay. Again, fashion is an elaborate troll job designed to piss people off. Don't bite. Don't bite on it. They want you to bite. They want you to talk about them. This is how they get attention. Pissing people off in creative ways is how you make it in the world today. Okay? Respect Sam Smith. Respect Russell Westbrook. Respect James Harden. You have to, or you'll be canceled. Speaking of people who go out of their way to piss everyone off, we're going to do another episode of Twitter is Terrible Tuesday. Last week, we did a left-wing pander-handling troll, Brooklyn Dad. Today, we're going to do a good-looking, right-wing pander-handling Bitcoin huckster who keeps popping up on my Twitter timeline even though I don't want to fucking see her. Her name is Laya Halpern. This was the most recent tweet that I saw by her. You know, it's crazy. You can go out for dinner every night in England and hardly put on any weight. You go for dinner every night in the US and you become obese. The way the food is processed in the States compared to Europe is mind-blowing. Pause. Yes, because English food is dog shit. And we have better food. Fast food to good food, especially here in Houston, we have better options than the Limeys. Of course, we're fat as fuck because of it. I'll admit that it bothers me that we have as many obese Americans as we do. I wish that more of them would perhaps have played sports growing up and care a little bit more about trying to stay in shape as long as they can. But we got great food here. We live the life. We are somewhat, the rulers of the world. So, of course, we're going to eat all our good fucking food and get fat. But a post like that, it's more an insufferable, yes, I'm a world traveler, and I can't believe that things are like this in the United States. But that's not the kind of tweet that bothers me that you regularly see from a Laya Halpern. Here's another one. And this kind of goes back to getting mad about things that honestly do not actually exist as prominently, abundantly, as a lot of people would have you believe. Here's a tweet by Leia Hailpern. When I was a kid, I loved football and wrestling. I was a typical tomboy. Eventually, I grew up and naturally blossomed into a woman. Oh, okay. Cool. No one cares. Thank God my parents weren't crazy enough to transition me. We must protect the children. I mean, that went to 180 really fucking quickly. Did it not? Do we gotta go to 180 that quickly on this? I don't think as many people see that their kid is going through, I don't know, some interesting thoughts in their small little brains about sexuality and are thinking to themselves, I'm going to transition my kid. I'm sure it does happen with some American parents out there. Does it happen to the majority of them? No. And imagine being a parent and your kid is in a situation where they're thinking about their sexuality, their gender, and they've got all this stuff being thrown at them at all angles. I mean, you want your kid to be happy, so I'm not telling you that parents should transition their kid. I just feel like a tweet like this is thrown out there to pander to a very specific audience, the fears of those people, acting as if this is something that is happening everywhere. Is it happening occasionally? I'm sure it is. All the time? No. And a lot of people in the culture wars, especially on the right-wing side of things, throw this shit out there as if it is a regular occurrence. I hate seeing it because I see through it as someone who leans a little bit right of moderate. Some more comments on a Twitter's Terrible Tuesday from Leia Hailpern. It's the same stuff. You can have all the surgery in the world and smother your face with makeup, but your chromosomes are still XY and you're still a man. No shit for some. For others, you're just trying to piss them off, to get engagement, to create conversation, and to get likes. This is the pander-handling bullshit that the right does, much like we talked about with the pander-handling bullshit that the left does. I see through it. Why the fuck do I have to see it on my timeline? Unprompted, without following this lady. Another tweet. Oh, God. I traveled the world throughout the scamdemic. Never wore a mask and never got ill. Funny that. Well, yeah, I mean, you're a seemingly younger looking person. You're probably in good shape. No fucking shit. This affected some people a lot. Others less so. Some people thought that it was a bad idea to travel all over the place. We were trying to figure shit out on the fly. And I'm not going to act like any side was necessarily right throughout it, but I do think that in Seattle, we went a little bit too crazy. Maybe in Texas and Florida, we were a little bit too lax. Who fucking knows? It was a difficult thing to navigate through, but we got pissed off about it. And people a couple of years later, with the benefit of hindsight, act like, hey, I traveled the world through this scandemic, never wore a mask and never got ill. Funny that. Well, you probably had to wear it on a plane unless you're flying a private jet the whole time, which sort of goes to show that you're just completely, I don't know, removed from real society and real people. What else do we have here from Leia Hailpern on a Twitter's Terrible Tuesday? Oh, Jesus Christ. She's a fucking Bitcoin huckster. Do have to tell you that, but I made my money once I stopped trying to save every penny. Mindset matters. But you're traveling the world all the time. I don't think everyone can do things the same way that you can. Saving money on every penny, maybe not the best thing in the world, but I definitely wish I saved a little bit more money because your boy's a dumbass spender and spends a lot of money on things that he does entirely for happiness. More from Leia Hailpern. And this is where she starts trying to con you. The lower Bitcoin goes, the more you can buy. Pullbacks and bear markets are opportunities. Don't miss out. Hey, Leia, how much is Bitcoin going for? Is it affordable? The more you can buy. Let's see from this person who has a book. She's attractive. I'm pretty sure that's the main reason she has the following that she has. But let's see. What's the price of Bitcoin on February 14th of 2023. Oh, it's $22,000, 207 cents, or 207 plus 30 cents. Great. Awesome. That's real affordable. You know what? I'm glad, Leia, that you told me that the lower Bitcoin goes, the more you should buy. So, down to $22,000. Yeah, that's really affordable. Awesome. Awesome. I'm so pumped about this. This is great. So thank you, Leia. Hey, Hailpern. Let's see. What was Bitcoin in 2013? Oh, it was $77. And a year ago, 2 years ago, it was $67,000. Can we fuck off with this Bitcoin shit? Can we just stop? If you got in, you got in. Great. It's like buying Apple stock at this point, or Nike stock. Like, if you got in at the beginning, awesome. If you didn't, you're fucked. Don't bother. Am I wrong here? I'm not some money expert, for God's sakes. As you can tell, I got popcorn fucking ceilings above me. But Jesus, I hate Twitter. I do. And that's the most, that is today's episode of Twitter is Terrible Tuesday. Let's take a look at some comments here. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Victor Ayala. Bryce just got to beef up and he'll be all right. Yeah, that might take some time, though. And I do think that if you have an interior offensive line in front of him his first couple of years in the league, he might get his ass beaten up. Brandon Stevens. Irsay's comments are music to my ears. We need CJ Stroud. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I don't think anyone knows, and anyone acting like they know who the fuck the next quarterback of the Houston Texans is going to be, or who the best possible option is with that pick that the Texans have it too. They're talking out of their ass. It's such an inexact science. We can like a quarterback, but do we need any of these three? Who's to actually say? Brendam_7 asks, where are you from, my friend? I am originally from Massachusetts, went to high school in Florida, college in upstate New York, here for my first job, Houston, Texas, up to Seattle for my second job, and back here in Houston for my third. So there you go, everybody. Josu Cologne asks, any interesting centers in the draft? I don't fucking know. Again, guys, I want to let you know right now that the people who think they know about the draft are generally talking out of their ass. That's like the one thing I want you guys to take away from any time that you listen to me. I'm going to be always transparent and honest with it. You might read something about a guy, you might watch a couple of highlights, but you don't know shit about these guys until they're actually in the system learning it. And I trust teams, and I trust a few select professionals who do this for a living, scouting and stuff, over what the average talking head like myself has to say about the draft. So, long way of saying, I don't know. Big thanks to everybody who tuned into today's edition of the Gallant Says podcast. We try to start this 1 o'clock Central Time every single day at Gallant Says, Twitter. Shit. How do I get to the website that has my Twitch? Oh, yeah. Twitch.tv/Gallant Says, YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. You can also get it in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. I am just vomiting all over myself trying to speak English at this point in time. But I appreciate you guys joining me right here. And make sure you do it tomorrow. So long. Farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful Valentine's Day. Draw a bath. Watch a rom-com. Cry to yourself that you're single and alone and nobody loves you like me. At least I have a cat.